Good afternoon. Welcome to the biology session. So we will continue the revision of our chapter Human Health and Diseases. So yesterday we had stopped learning structure of antibody. So antibodies are of different types. There are four different types of antibodies. Antibodies are also represented as Ig, which means immunoglobulins. Ig, A, IgE, IgG, IgM, or the four different types of immunoglobulins. So, immunoglobulins also called as antibodies. So, moving on to another thing I would like to tell is something about the T lymphocytes. Very important for our from our NEET point of view or the competitive point of view, the T lymphocytes. During any organ transplantation, so what happens is when there is an organ transplantation, the there are possibilities of organ rejection. So during organ rejection, the T lymphocytes are going to produce the cell mediated immunity for which the organ may get rejected. So during any organ transplantation, what happens is the patient is given with lot of immunosuppressive drugs. In spite of that, what happens is the T lymphocytes, that is the cell mediated immunity, excuse me, during any organ transplantation, the patient is given with immunosuppressive drugs. The T lymphocytes, they will try to, uh, the T lymphocytes are responsible for the organ rejection and they're going to produce the cell mediated immunity. Okay, moving on to the next topic, that is types of immunity, active and passive immunity. Active and passive immunity. So what is active immunity and what is passive immunity? So active immunity is if when a host is exposed to live or dead microbes or proteins, body produces body produces antibodies, is called active immunity. So active immunity is when the host body is exposed to live or dead microbes. So it might be any antigen. When a host is exposed to antigens, live or dead microbes. So an antigen may be any foreign particle or any foreign substance, or it might be any microbe like a virus or a bacteria or a fungi or whatever it is. So they can be considered as antigens. The dead microbes can also act as antigen and they can stimulate the immune system to produce the antibodies, which is referred as active immunity. So the best example is we all get vaccinated. So vaccination can be the best example. So we will also have natural exposure to various diseases. So naturally we are exposed to certain pathogens and we get certain diseases like flu irbodu or any such other disease. So we call that as active immunity, for which our body will produce the antibodies on its own. So vaccination is also another type of active immunity. Next is passive immunity. So what is passive immunity? So in case of passive immunity, the ready-made antibodies are injected. So ready-made antibodies are injected into the body to protect the body from foreign agents, to protect the body from foreign agents, which is nothing but the antigens. So ready-made antibodies are injected, so or given. So the best example is the colostrum, that is mother's milk fed to an infant can be an example of passive immunity, which is nothing but the ready-made antibodies which are transferred from mother's body to the infant body. So that helps in protecting the body of the baby from the various antigens. Next, moving on to the next topic. We have passive immunization or vaccination or immunization. So we all know what is vaccination. So you all have taken the vaccine, COVID vaccine. So which you call it as the vaccination or immunization. And this is based on the principle of memory cells. So first I'll tell you what are memory cells. So whenever an antigen enters into the body of an organism, so antigen enters into the body of an organism. So what happens is the immune system is stimulated. So immune system is stimulated. So this stimulated immune system is going to produce the B lymphocytes, or B lymphocytes are also stimulated. They take the help of T lymphocytes. They take the help of T lymphocytes and they will produce two types of cells. One is called as effector cells and the other is called as memory cells. And the other is called as memory cells. So the effector cells. So these are effector cells. These effector cells in turn are going to produce the antibodies. Are going to produce the antibodies. So memory cells will have a particular lifespan. They may survive for many months or many years also sometimes. So when there is first time when the antigen attacks the body, all this process happens, which you call it as primary response. So these memory cells stay in the body even after subsiding the subsidation of the infection. The memory cells will stay in the body after 6 months or after 8 months or after maybe even a year. If there is an infection, subsequent infection, the memory cells immediately ask the effector cells to produce the antibodies. Quick response, immune response is produced, which you call it as the secondary immune response, or it is also called as anamnestic response. So that is something to introduce vaccination or immunization. So this principle of memory cells is the base for vaccination or immunization. So vaccination, what do you understand by the word vaccine? Vaccine andre ಏನು? So they are nothing but the antigenic proteins of they are nothing but the antigenic proteins of the pathogen or inactivated or inactivated or weakened pathogens. Weakened pathogens. So the weakened pathogens itself will act like a vaccine. So these are introduced into the body in the form of vaccine. So they are capable of they are capable of stimulating the entire immune system to produce the antibodies. So the antibodies are ready. If at all there is an infection, the antibodies will destroy the antigen and the person will get rid of the infection. So the memory cells will stay in the body even after the infection is subsided for some months or sometimes even years. So that's the base of vaccination. Next, we'll take passive immunization. There is something called as passive immunization. So in passive immunization, the preformed antibodies are injected into the body of an organism to get rid of any if ever it requires any quick immune response due to certain toxins or due to some dreadful microbes. Whenever a person is infected with dreadful microbe, whenever a person is infected with dreadful microbes, so infected with dreadful microbes, and a very rapid and quick immune response is essential. So what happens is it it requires a very quick and rapid response. So this response, rapid response, is available only with the help of certain antitoxin. Antitoxin. So antitoxin, it can be, the example is tetanus and also snake bite, snake venom. So antitoxin is a preparation of the antibodies against the toxin. So that is given for tetanus or snake venom. And you call this as passive immunization. You call this as passive immunization. Right. This is another concept for very important for the competitive exam. Now, moving forward, allergy. We will take the next topic, allergy. All of you might be aware of allergy these days. Allergy is more in the younger generation rather than good immunity. Allergy is very, very common in the present generation. So, what is allergy? It is the exaggerated response of the immune system. Exaggerated response of the immune system. Exaggerated response of the immune system against antigens, against certain antigens in the environment. So you call it as allergy. So the agent that causes allergy is called as allergen, is called as allergen. Smoke, then fumes, mites in dust, all these can be called as allergens. You can call them as the allergens. So some of the symptoms of allergy are, so symptoms of allergy are, so running nose, watery eyes, sneezing, and also running nose, watery eyes, sneezing, and also all these are some of the or the symptoms of allergy. So during allergy, body is going to secrete certain chemicals like serotonin and also histamines and also histamines. And on the part of the treatment, so what is the treatment that is given to allergy? So on the part of the treatment for allergy, we have adrenaline, antihistamines, antihistamines, and also steroids, and also steroids. So this is something about the allergy. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's be very quick because the topic is very huge. Autoimmunity. What do you understand by autoimmunity? So autoimmunity is our own body or the immune system starts destroying the self cells. In the immune system, we have something called as self cells and non-self cells. Non-self cells. Self cells and non-self cells. So in the immune system, the immune system is is capable of identifying the self cells and non self cells. Self cells ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮದೇ ಬಾಡಿಯ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ನಾನ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಬಾಡೀಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ನಾನ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇಮ್ಯೂನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಶಿಯೇಟ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದ ಟೂ. Sometimes due to certain genetic disorders or unknown reasons. So the immune system is going to destroy the self cells. So this causes some disease which is called as autoimmune disease. You call it as autoimmune disease. So some of the examples of autoimmune disease are rheumatoid arthritis, chronic hepatitis, chronic hepatitis. We also have some other examples like myasthenia gravis, which you had studied in first year. Then also we have chronic anemia, Addison's disease. All these are some of the examples of autoimmune disorders or autoimmune diseases. Yes, let's move on to the next topic. Immune system of the body. So when you think of circulatory system, immune system. So when you think of human body and you think of respiratory system, you will get the idea of the very first thought you get is lungs. When you think of circulatory system, the very immediate thought you get is heart. Like that, if I ask immune system, so this immune system also consists of certain organs, tissues, cells, and also molecules. So the organs related with immune system are referred as lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs. And these are of two types, the primary lymphoid organs and the secondary lymphoid organs. Secondary lymphoid organs. So coming to tissues, we have malt. So malt is mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, which is present in the digestive tract, the respiratory tract, and also the reproductive tract, digestive tract, respiratory tract, and also the reproductive tract. Cells, we have B cells and T cells, are also referred as B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. So malt, this nearly comprises of 50% of the lymphoid tissue in our body, right? Cells and molecules are nothing but the proteins called as antibodies. So yesterday we have learned the structure of antibody, which has got 4 polypeptide chains with 440 amino acids and 220 amino acids respectively in the long and short chains. So that is something related with the immune system. So next, let's go to the next topic. It is AIDS. AIDS is also another infectious disease, also another dreadful disease which are killing thousands of people around the world. So a lot of awareness program is trying to be given against this disease to prevent the infection of AIDS. AIDS is nothing but acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So acquired, which means naming nave tankondirontaha kaile. Immunodeficiency, there is deficiency of the immune system or the immunity. Syndrome is due to deficiency in the immunity. It leads to huge number of diseases or bunch of diseases. You call it as syndrome. So the causative organism is HIV. It is human immunodeficient virus. So it is the causative organism. Next, coming to the symptoms of the disease. So anemia, weight loss, diarrhea, various skin infections, infection of the virus, bacteria, fungi, etc. And also protozoan like exoplasma, all these. So there will be recurrent diseases attacking the patient because the immune system. And finally, you can also write the weakness or weakened immune system. Weakened immune system or immunity. So because of the weak immunity, the patient is prone to or susceptible to varieties of diseases, which you call it as the syndrome. We call it as the syndrome. So that is something about the symptoms. Coming to the treatment part. Treatment part. So exactly there are no good treatment for it, but antiretroviral antiretroviral drugs are available, which only postpones the death, but it will not prevent the death. So that is something about the treatment. And we have a lot of preventive measures. So much of the preventive measures you have studied in the chapter reproductive health. So I'm not going to repeat the same. Let us take some other preventive measures. So the WHO has initiated various programs. We have various non-government organization, that is the NGOs, who are working to prevent the infection of AIDS. And also there is a national-wide organization called as NACO, National AIDS Control Organization, who are all trying to prevent the infection of HIV. So that's something about the AIDS. We will also look into how HIV will multiply in the body of an cell, inside this cell. So this is the replication of retrovirus. Retrovirus is nothing but the HIV virus. So when it gets into the cell, so this is a retrovirus which has got only two components. One is the protein coat, one is the protein coat and the protein coat and the viral RNA. So the viral RNA, which is surrounded by the protein coat, only the RNA is going to enter into the animal cell. This RNA will get, this is RNA which is getting converted into DNA. We know that DNA uh, can can form RNA, which you call it as transcription. So now the RNA is getting transcribed into DNA. You call it as reverse transcription. So reverse transcription is brought about by an enzyme called as reverse transcriptase, which is present with the viral RNA. So this viral RNA gets converted into uh, viral DNA by the process called as reverse transcription with the help of the enzyme reverse transcriptase. Now this viral DNA will get incorporated in the DNA or the nucleus of the host cell. So here it will get incorporated with the DNA. It will command over the enzymes present in the nucleus, and it will start producing new viral RNAs. So finally, the new viral RNAs are surrounded by the protein coat, and the new viruses are um, come out, bursting the cells and enter into new cells, and they start multiplying in number. Finally, they also infect the T cells and destroy the T cells. So since there is a decrease in the T cells day by day, the patient's immune system will become weak day by day and finally meet coma and death. So that's something to say about the AIDS. There's a lot of information, but still, let's move on because the chapter is huge. Let's go to the next topic, that is cancer. So cancer is a non-infectious disease. So cancer is also killing huge number of people. In India itself, there are millions of patients suffering from varieties of cancer. So how is cancer caused? And what is this cancer? Cancer. So non-infectious disease. So this is due to uncontrolled cell division. Uncontrolled cell division. And uncontrolled cell division is because of lack of a property called as in lack of a property of the cells called as contact inhibition. Contact inhibition. So due to the lack of this property of the cells start dividing in an uncontrolled manner and produce masses of cells. The masses of cells are referred as tumors. Masses of cells are referred as tumors. So tumors are of two types, benign tumors and malignant tumors. Malignant tumors. So let's not forget about benign because they are not so harmful. The malignant tumors are quite harmful because they exhibit a property called as metastasis. So metastasis, the neoplastic cells or the cancer cells which are present in the tumors, they proliferate, they get dislodged from the tissues, they enter into the bloodstream. Through the bloodstream, they enter into different parts of the body, they enter into new organs, and there they start developing new tumors. And that property is called as metastasis, which is one of the very dangerous condition, which is one of the very dangerous condition of cancer. So one person may get many types of cancer because of this property, which is highly dangerous. Right. Next, these are the properties. Contact inhibition, you have to remember. Types of tumors, very important. Metastasis is another property which is very important from uh, examination point of view. Next, coming to the causes of cancer. So what causes cancer? Causes of cancer are of three types. So the agent that causes cancer is called as a carcinogen. There are varieties of carcinogens. There are physical carcinogens. There are chemical carcinogens. 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 Three types: physical, chemical, and also biological. And also biological carcinogens. The physical carcinogens are the UV rays and X rays. UV rays and X rays. Then the chemical carcinogens are the nicotine, which is present in cigarette, nicotine, which is present in tobacco, or once again, the cigarette. Biological or some viral oncogenes, and also proto-oncogenes are also called as cellular oncogenes. So these are certain cancer causing agents which are called as carcinogens. So that is something about the causes of cancer. Yes, moving on to the diagnosis of cancer. The diagnosis of cancer. So diagnosis, biopsy and histopathological, biopsy and histopathological, radiography, radiography, then also biopsy and histopathological radiography, CT, that is computed tomography scan, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. So with all these, we can get images of the internal organs which are affected with cancer. So this will help in diagnosing the cancer, right? And finally, coming to The treatment of cancer. Treatment of cancer. So surgery is done to remove the tumors, then radiotherapy, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, immunotherapy. So any cancer patient, to remove the tumors, surgery is used. So radiotherapy, so to burn off the cells surrounding the tumor, so to avoid the further proliferation of the tumors. Chemotherapy, to subside the what to stop the uncontrolled cell division, then immunotherapy. So during the treatment process, the immune system of the patient becomes very weak. So he is also given with immunotherapy. They are also administered with alpha interferons, which will support the immune system to destroy the cancerous cells or the neoplastic cells. So that is something about the cancer. Next, after cancer, let's understand something about drugs. Drugs and alcohol abuse. So the first question, what are drugs? So drug can be any medicine or chemical substance which ingested will lead to certain impact, will create certain impact on the body, physiological impact on the body. You call it as drug. Now, what is drug abuse? Abuse means misuse, misusing the drugs. So drug abuse is something the drugs are taken in, drugs ingested, ingested in large amounts, in large amounts, in huge frequencies, in large frequencies, in which the which physical, physical, physiological, and psychological functions of the body are adversely affected or adversely affected. You call it as drug abuse or alcohol abuse. So drugs are taken for non-medical purposes. They are taken for non-medical purposes. In drug abuse, the drugs are taken for non-medical purposes in large amounts and large frequencies in which the physical, physiological, and the psychological functioning of the body is adversely affected. You call it as drug abuse. And there are certain drugs which are abused. Let us come to that. There are three important types of drugs which are abused. So, drugs of abuse. There are three types of drugs of abuse: opioids, cannabinoids, and cocoa alkaloids. Yes, the first one is opioids. Opioids. The second is cannabinoids. And finally, it is cocoa alkaloids. Alkaloids. So, opioids. So, our CNS and the GI tract has got certain receptors to which the opioids can bind. So opioids bind to the receptors present in the CNS and also in the GI tract and cause it and bring certain effects on the body. So they are snorted. ನಶ್ಯ ತರ ಮೂಗಿಗೆ ಏರ್ಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ snorted or they are injected. They are injected. So these are drugs which are prepared, got from the plant called as Aver somniferum, also called as poppy plant. Papaver somniferum is the source plant of opioids. And the example, one of the example of opioid is heroin, also called as smack, also called as smack. So it is also called as diacetyl morphine. Is also called as diacetyl morphine. So this heroin acts like a depressant. It acts like a depressant. So depressant is, it slows down the activity of the CNS. CNS activity slows down, and you call this as the depressant. The second one is cannabinoids. So the cannabinoids are also another group of drugs which are extracted from the plant called as cannabis sativa. So even they have certain receptors in the central nervous system, and they bind to the receptors present in the central nervous system and cause some effects on the body. And these are usually inhaled. They are usually inhaled, or they are also oral ingestion of orally taken, that is through the mouth, either in the form of tablets or in the form of powder. They are orally ingested or they are inhaled. So the source plant is cannabis sativa. Some of the examples of cannabinoids are marijuana, ganja, and also charas, hashish, etc. Cocoa alkaloids. So cocoa alkaloids, you might be aware of cocoa chocolates. Yes, erythroxylum, coca, erythroxylum. Coca is the source plant. So it is a native of South America, and this coca is the source of all your cocoa chocolates, like the 5 star or the dairy milk chocolates. So all of you are very fond of these chocolates. They act like a stimulant when they are taken in small doses. So chocolates, not regularly. So once in a while, it acts like a stimulant. So if their example is cocaine, cocaine. So this is also snorted. It is also snorted. And the best example of cocoa alkaloids is cocaine, also called as coke, or it is also called as crack. So when taken in large doses, it acts like hallucinogens. It acts like hallucinogens. So hallucinogens or nothing, they are going to create ಭ್ರಮೆ. ಭ್ರಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬದುಕುವಂಥದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಲೋಸಿಜೆನಿಕ್ ಹ್ಯಾಲುಸಿನಿಜಿಕ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಭ್ರಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗುತ್ತಂತೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನ ವೆನ್ ದೀಸ್ ಕೋಕೋ ಆಲ್ಕೊಲಾಯ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಇನ್ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಡೋಸಸ್. ಸೊ ಈ ತರ ಹ್ಯಾಲುಸಿನೋಜೆನಿಕ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಮತ್ತೆ 2 ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ದತುರ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಅದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಟ್ರೋಪಾ ಬೆಲ್ಲಡೋನಾ. ಅಟ್ರೋಪಾ ಬೆಲ್ಲಡೋನಾ. So these are something about the drugs. ಇದಲ್ದಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಅನ್ನ before that, there's another drug called as morphine, very important for our competitive exam. Morphine is a painkiller and a sedative. So usually operations ಆಗಿರೋರ್ಗೆ, ಸರ್ಜರಿ ಆಗಿರೋರ್ಗೆ ಕೊಡುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು drug morphine. So it is a very good sedative and a painkiller. So to treat some mental illness like insomnia ಇರ್ಬೋದು, Insomnia is something like people don't cannot sleep. So sleeplessness, you call it as insomnia. So mental illness ಇರೋರ್ಗೆ ಕೆಲವು drugs ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, like LSDs, lysergic acidamines. They're called as amphetamines. Amphetamines, barbiturates, barbiturates. All these are examples which are used in treatment of more benzodiazepines, benzodiazepines. All these are some of the drugs which are used to treat mental illness. So this is something about the drugs of abuse, the drugs which are abused: opioids, cannabinoids, cocoa alkaloids. So moving on to the next, that is the effect of smoking. Effect of smoking. Cigarette smoke or cigarette consists of tobacco, and one of the alkaloid present in the tobacco is nicotine, which is going to cause varieties of cancer in human beings. Cigarette smoking causes varieties of cancer. Smoking. So, alkaloid called nicotine is present in it. So, it is going to affect the body. It may cause cancers of lungs, urinary bladder, throat, and also oral cavity. Throat and oral cavity. So, oral cavity because people chew tobacco, tambaku, jagitare. So that may cause cancer of the oral cavity. So cancers of lungs, urinary bladder, throat, all these. It may also cause diseases like bronchitis, emphysema, ulcers, gastric ulcers, etc. So smoking, the effects of smoking. It will also reduce heme bound oxygen in the body, heme bound oxygen. Then it will increase the concentration of carbon dioxide. It increases secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline, which in turn increases the blood pressure. So these are all some of the effects of smoking. Next, moving on to the next topic, that is effects of alcohol. Effects of alcohol. Effects of alcohol. This is once again causes cancer, liver cirrhosis. Then it may also cause fetal alcoholic syndrome. So this is in case of women who take excessive alcohol during their pregnancy, which is going to affect the development of the baby or the fetus, hence called as fetal alcoholic syndrome. So this is something about the effects of alcohol. Next, let's move on to one more thing I forgot to tell. There is the confirmatory test to find out that a person is suffering from AIDS is ELISA, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, it is called as. And this is one confirmatory test to find out the person is suffering from, yeah, AIDS. Next. Next topic is adolescence and drug abuse. Adolescence and alcohol and drug abuse. Alcohol and drug abuse. So what is adolescence? So you call it as teenage ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀರಾ, or you call it as puberty. So it is in between the age of 12 to 16 you consider as 12 to 18 you consider as adolescence. So you are all in this age, that is, you're all at puberty or adolescence. 12 to 18 years of age is considered as adolescence. Now, what is adolescence? So it is, adolescence is a period and process in which the child matures in his or her beliefs and attitudes. Beliefs and attitudes for active participation in the society. So, adolescence is a period and process, both a period. Period is the age of 12, in between 12 to 18, you call it as the period. The process is, during this process, there will be a lot of changes in the body, physical changes, physiological changes, then also psychological changes, then also hormonal changes. All these changes can be seen, also behavioral changes. Also behavioral changes. All these changes can be seen in adolescence. So some of the examples I would like to give, that is aggressiveness. Aggressiveness. So this is one of the important uh, character or exhibited during adolescence. So in this period or process, the child is going to mature in his ideas or the beliefs or the attitudes. So a child thinks I should become a doctor, I should become an engineer, I should become a politician, or I should become an industrialist. So they think and they become little bit mature in their beliefs and attitudes, and they start slowly participating in the what society. So this you call it as adolescence. So in this adolescence, all parents and teachers, they are very cautious, seeing that these adolescent people are not in or in the right path or in the wrong path. So this is a very crucial period of life where person which decides the further life of a person. Therefore, this is one of the crucial period. So in this period, there are all chances that a person may get into the crucious circle of alcohol or drug abuse. So, what are the reasons why a adolescent gets into the vicious circle of drugs or alcohol? What are the reasons? Let us look into the reasons why a person gets into the vicious circle of drug abuse or alcohol abuse. The reasons are excitement, fun. The first one is maybe for curiosity, fun, amusement. So, unsupportive family, escape from responsibilities, from responsibilities. So, if he's a student, to get rid of, so I have to read so much. Why I should read ಅಂತ ಏನನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. So he may take a wrong route. So if there is no cautious watching of the parents and the teachers, he may take into a bad path. So curiosity ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ, ಒಂದ್ ಸತಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ನೋಡೋಣ ಏನಾಗ್ಬೋದು. Or unsupportive family. So the family members are not taking proper care of the child or the adolescent. So he may think of getting into a this vicious circle. So because there's nobody to tell this is wrong, this is right. So he may get into such vicious circle of alcohol or drug abuse. So what are the symptoms, or what are the symptoms that can be seen in such people who are on the having this habit of alcohol or drug abuse? Violence, aggressiveness. They show certain symptoms when get into they start with drug abuse or alcohol abuse. They show certain symptoms like violence, aggressiveness, isolation, vandalism, unexplained absence to the class, unexplained absence to school or college. So such other symptoms can be seen in the person who is uh, depression, all these. So it starts for amusement or it fun. These drugs or something like that, if they just use it for just one time also, they may fall into addiction. They may fall into addiction. Now, what is addiction? What is addiction? So addiction is nothing but a psychological attachment to certain effects, effects like a, a feeling of well-being or euphoria associated with associated with drugs and alcohol abuse. So it is temporary feeling of well-being. We'll add temporary feeling of ವೆಲ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್, ಸೈಕೊಲಾಜಿಕಲ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಅದನ್ನ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಟೆಂಪ್ಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಶುರು ಆಗೋದು. ಸೊ ಡ್ರಗ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕು, ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಟೆಂಪ್ರವರಿ ಆಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಿಂದ ದೂರ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ವೆಲ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿದೆ, ನಾನು ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಸಂತೋಷವಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಟೆಂಪ್ರವರಿ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಅನ್ನ ಈ ಒಂದು ಡ್ರಗ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ, ವಿಚ್ ಯು ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್, psychological attachment. So this is what is called as addiction. So when he starts getting addicted, he will start doing whatnot. So this addiction may finally lead to steal money from home. He may become a thief in his own home. He may bring about economic distress to the family. So people will be annoyed in the family. Why we are losing so much of money? We are not knowing who is stealing it. So this may happen. And finally, he may get susceptible to diseases like AIDS or hepatitis B. So when the person is abusing alcohol or drugs, he is not in his own sensation. When he is not in his own personality, he will not be knowing what is good, what is bad, what he is doing, whether he is doing good or bad. So whether he is following the right path or the wrong path. So he may become susceptible to certain diseases like AIDS and hepatitis. So excessive use of alcohol and drug may finally lead to coma and deaths. Coma and deaths. So these are some things related with the adolescence and alcohol and drug abuse. So this can be prevented also. There is prevention and control. So before going to the prevention and control, let's want to, even the sports persons take some drugs. The drugs taken by the sports persons are so to increase the aggressiveness or to bring the competitive spirit in themselves or to increase their muscular strength. For all these reasons, the sports persons also take some drugs. So the drugs like analgesics, the drugs like steroids, the drugs like diuretics. So drugs used by sports persons. Sports persons. Analgesics, painkillers, analgesics, diuretics, and steroids. So all these drugs, these are painkillers, analgesics are painkillers, diuretics, they prevent the excess urine flow, and steroids, they increase the muscular strength. So these are certain drugs used by the sports persons. And these drugs, when taken in large doses, will also have a lot of side effects in both male and female. So side effects both in male and female. So some of the side effects is depression, isolation, or aggressiveness, both in male and female. The female may develop certain masculine characters, or the male may develop some feminine characters. So like the enlargement of the mammary gland and such other things. So there are a lot of side effects when these drugs are taken. Particularly, the steroids are taken in excess by the sports persons. And now, how to control or prevent adolescents from drug and alcohol use? Prevent and prevention and control. Prevention and control. We are at the final part of this chapter, prevention and control. Prevention and control of drug abuse. So avoid undue peer pressure. Avoid undue peer pressure. The second is education and counseling. Education and counseling. Counseling. The third is looking for, sorry, seeking help, seeking help from parents and peers. The four is looking for dangerous signs, looking for danger signs. Finally, it is seeking for medical and professional help. Professional help. So, adolescents, if they are in the bad, vicious circle of drug abuse or alcohol abuse, they can be brought back to the path by avoid undue peer pressure. So we can avoid undue peer pressure. Peer is all the generation of the same age. You call it as peer pressure. So the people of same age, they'll be facing almost the same problems. For example, you people are having the problem of facing the big exam like second PUC and then qualifying a competitive exam and entering into the various degrees, right? That is what is called as peer pressure. The pressure is same for all this age group students, right? That is what is called as undue peer pressure. Education and counseling. So education and counseling may reduce this pressure. So sharing with friends or sharing the things with what the parents, so educating themselves or creating an awareness by other people. When you talk about it, you'll come to know that you are in the wrong path. So parents will tell this is wrong, this is right, you don't do this, you do this, only this. So this is what is called as education and counseling. Seeking help from parents and peers. See, if an individual or if a student or if an adolescent is under the what drug or alcohol abuse, is practicing drug or alcohol abuse, the first person who recognizes is the friends or the peers and the parents. So you can take the help of them. Sometimes it so happens the person knows that he is doing wrong, but he cannot come out because he is under addiction. So this is what and addiction will finally lead to another thing which is called as dependency. So dependency is something where the body has a tendency to manifest characteristics characteristics and withdrawal syndromes. If the drug or alcohol is discontinued abruptly, it is discontinued, ನಾಳೆಯಿಂದನೇ ನಿಲ್ಸ್ಬಿಡು ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಇರೋನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ನಿಲ್ಸಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, he will have some withdrawal syndromes like nausea, sweating, shakiness, anxiety, etc. So adolescents cannot come out of this addiction on their own. They may require some help from parents or peers. So when they look into the dangerous signs, so they can go for medical or professional help. Finally, there are so many de-addiction centers. These de-addiction centers try to bring the the people who are under addiction to come out of this addiction and lead a normal life. So we have so many de-addiction centers and rehabilitation centers. So ಈ ಒಂದು ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಚಟಗಳಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಒಂದು ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲೀಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಏನಿದಾವೆ, ಸೊ ರಿಹ್ಯಾಬಿಲಿಟೇಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ. ಡಿ ಅಡಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಿಹ್ಯಾಬಿಲಿಟೇಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ದಮ್ ಆಸ್. ಸೊ this is something about this chapter, human health and diseases. So I think I have conveyed all the information which is essential for writing or taking the competitive exams. I hope this class has helped you to some extent. If it has helped you, I feel I'm blessed. Thank you all.